Pastor. You're welcome.
I think Brother Jordan does pretty hard to follow up, but I'm going to try my best by God's grace. Let us pray. Father in heaven, thank you for your mercy and your grace and for the messages that we've been hearing so far. I know that it's a practice for us, but we know that those messages hit home. And Lord, I pray now as I share the message as well, that you please help us and teach us to learn and to follow your will, Jesus.
Amen.
The topic for today is hashtag death to selfie. If you have your Bible with me, open your Bible to Daniel chapter 4. Open your Bible to the book of Daniel chapter 4. I'm going to be reading verse 28 to verse 33. Daniel chapter 4, verse 28, 23. If you're there, you say amen.
Amen.
It says, all this happened to Nebuchadnezzar the king. 12 months later, he was walking on top of the roof of the royal palace of Babylon. The king reflected and said, is this not Babylon, the great, which I have built as a royal residence by my might of my power and for the glory of my majesty? While the word was in the king's mouth, a voice came from heaven saying, King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is declared, sovereignty has been removed from you, and you will be driven away from mankind, and you will dwell, your dwelling place will be with the beasts of the field. You will be with the grass, you will be given grass to eat like cattle, and 7 periods of time will pass over you until we recognize that the Most High is ruler over all the realms of mankind, and bestowed it on him whatever he will. Verse 33. Immediately the word the word concerning Nebuchadnezzar was fulfilled, and he was driven away from the mankind and began eating grass like cattle. His body was drenched with the dew of heaven, until his hair had grown like eagle's feathers and his nails like bird's claw. For the top 100 cities, Time magazine did a survey one day in 2014, and they found that Makati City has become not only well known to be the financial city of the Philippines, but can now boast that it has become the selfie capital of the world. You see, when you look at the story here in the book of Daniel chapter 4, you see that according to this passage, we read that the king Nebuchadnezzar had a selfie issue. It's a new word which became official recently. Oxford Dictionary added the word selfie in April 2014. But what is selfie? The word selfie is very simple. I think we all understand is a person taking a picture of himself and putting in social media. If you don't know what I'm talking about, take out your devices, hold it up, and you take a picture of yourself. Come on, take your device. I mean, come on. Follow along. And that
I'm trying to take this picture of me. Dr. Williams.
that is selfie. You see, the king had been warned of impending judgment. Let me repeat, the king. All right, that's enough of selfie. Let me repeat, the king had been warned and informed in the book of Daniel, chapter 4. In verse 27, Daniel came and explained his dream. He said, Your Majesty, be pleased to accept my advice. Renounce your sins by doing what is right, and your wickedness by being kind to the oppressed. It may be that when your prosperity will continue. Exalted to the pinnacle of the worldly honor, and recognized even by inspiration as King of Kings, Nebuchadnezzar, nevertheless at times had credited the favor of God to himself. He thought that he was the one who created the kingdom of Babylon. Right after his dream of the great image, his mind had been profoundly influenced by this vision and by the thought that the Babylonian Empire, universal though it was, would finally come to an end and would be preceded by another kingdom, and then finally the kingdom that has no end. From chapter 1 to 4 of Daniel, God has been working to win Brother Nabal. I want to call him that. Time and time again, he was given the opportunity to accept the God of heaven. Through the life and testimony of the faithful Hebrew, Daniel and his 3 companions, he was given the chance to accept the mercy of God. In Daniel 1, the king himself saw that the God of heaven was more powerful, who is able to give 10 times more wiser to his servants compared to the Babylonian. In chapter 2, again, God gave the opportunity to show King Nebuchadnezzar through the dreams that only a person who is connected to the divine was able to give and to know the dream and to give the interpretation to the dream. In chapter 3, we see that King Nebuchadnezzar saw the power of God when the 3 Hebrew boys was thrown into the fire and hurt. But with much success, it's not a surprise that the ambitious and proud king turned aside from the path of humility and true greatness to his selfie. Selfie is a new word. We know that highlighting yourself is an ancient concept. You see, the Bible tells us that what has been, that which shall be. There's nothing new under the sun. It might be a new word today, but the concept of selfie is an old one.
Amen.
It's been in our history book this whole time. In Greco-Roman culture, selfie was one of the most prevalent and recorded artifacts. Emperors, rich and famous, would hire a sculptor and professional artists to carve an image of themselves. The purpose of the sculpture, especially the bust sculpture, the one that's half, mostly a head, was to show how important they were. It's been shared in history that there's about 700,000 images of captured bust sculptures, some half body and some a full painting or whole sculpture of some images back in the days. The approach and way of making selfies has advanced, but the desire to heighten oneself as a demigod has not. This demigod appeal has been the driven agenda in every culture. After all, it is the first biblical deception. The Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 3, verse 5, eat this fruit, eat, and you will be like God. You see, in the interval between his wars and conquests, King Nebuchadnezzar thought about how to strengthen and to beautify his capital. And so he did. The kingdom of Babylon became the chief glory of his kingdom. It was called the Golden City. The praise of the whole earth, his passion as a builder, and his signal success in making Babylon as one of the most wonders of the world, ministered to his pride. Until he was in grave danger of spoiling his record as the wise ruler whom God continued to use as an instrument in carrying out his divine purpose. But God is merciful and gave him another opportunity. We see here in chapter 4 of the book of Daniel. In chapter 4 of the book of Daniel, verses 10 to 14, the Bible tells us there that King Nebuchadnezzar was again given the opportunity to see what will happen if he continued in his way of selfie. The Bible tells us there that King Nebuchadnezzar saw a big tree growing in the earth, the top towering to the heavens and its branches stretched to the ends of the earth. Flocks and herds enjoy its shelter as its shadow from below. Birds built their nests in its bark. The leaves were fair and the fruit was much. It was meat for all the flesh. Then the king saw a watcher, a holy one, who approached and said, cut down the tree. Cut down the tree. For sometimes, the impression of the warning of the counsel of Daniel was very strong upon his mind. But the heart that is not transformed by the grace soon loses the impression of the Holy Spirit. By self-indulgence and ambition and continuing in self-pattern practices, his heart was hardened and equating his God-given talent for self-glorification. Selfie has taken over brother Nebuchadnezzar. A year after he had received the warning, the Bible tells us in verse 30, while he was walking in his palace, thinking about all the achievements of the things that he has done throughout his life and the accomplishment, he said in verse 30, is it not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of my kingdom, the power of my might, and for the honor of my majesty? Selfie hasn't lived Nebuchadnezzar. Before the king could finish the word, his reason was taken away. The wisdom in whom he prided himself was removed. The once mighty ruler became a maniac. His hand could no longer sway the scepter. The message of warning had been unheeded. Now stripped of his power from his creator, he had given him and had driven from men, Nebuchadnezzar started to eat grass. His selfie turned him into person that he didn't want to be. You see, the king, through his selfish issues, suffered what we call today, or known today as boanthropy, a psychological disorder in which the sufferer believes that he or she is a God. And when we look at the story of Nebuchadnezzar, we think to ourselves, man, what a foolish man. He should have given up his selfish issue to God. But you see, we are no different from Brother Nebuchadnezzar. We are in the same way. What I mean by that? We talk of self-worth to a point that it becomes idolatry and self-worship. You see, it's been confirmed by American Psychiatric Association that taking a picture is a mental disorder when you continue to do it. Taking selfie is a mental disorder. The disorder is called self-fitness. And it's defined as the obsessive, compulsive desire to take pictures or photos of oneself and post them on social media as a way to make up for the lack of self-esteem and fill the gap in intimacy. Remember, friends, that in the last day, one of Satan's last great attacks won't just simply be against the existence of God, but a lifting up of self. And this is imitating himself, Satan. Self is a great threat to our spiritual journey. For many, self has become the number one thing today. It's a self-worship. You see, friends, I've heard somebody said, well, I've been talking about myself for a long time now. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? You see, friends, it has become about me and me, what I like, what I want. What about me? Like Martin said, entitlement, self-entitlement. It's all about me. Self is a great threat to our spiritual journey. For many, they wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is take a selfie of themselves and post it in social media. Selfie has become a number one time waster in the people's life. It is occupying our devotional and our social life. Friends, we got to be aware. We live in a time of digital age where the world is more connected than ever before, but we are more disconnected than ever before. People are more interested in keeping up with what is going on with someone else's life than trying to clean up their own life. We don't know how to socialize anymore. People would rather snapshot than personally talk to someone. People would rather write a message in Facebook than confront the person. Gossip about somebody on social media than talk about it heart to heart. We post a picture of ourselves making believe that we are happily ever after, but in reality we are lonely and broken in heart. Husbands and wives spend their quality time in their individual smartphone and I don't know how to talk to each other anymore. Parents would rather buy their kids gifts than be the gift themselves by spending time with their children. But because we have better things to do, better games to play, we end up being selfish. Even here in the seminary, while the teacher is trying their best to teach us, many of us are in our smartphone devices. Watching the news, watching our football game, watching our games that we like so much, watching baseball, watching football, or just simply playing video games. You see, friends, we have become so selfish, all about me and me and me. What do you think about me? That we no longer know how to listen and fulfill our responsibility. You see, the church, not just individual, but the church is in danger of selfie as well. But now you know that I'm not talking about that little innocent taking picture. I'm talking about the pride that we've been holding on to. I'm talking about the selfishness that we've been holding on to. I'm talking about that sin that you've been holding on to that you're not willing to give it up. Talking about that jealousy and that hatred, and the unforgiving spirit that we have in the church. Because of selfie, we are not willing to admit that we are wrong. Selfie is a self-preservation. Could it be that the church has become so concerned with self-preservation that we have not got involved? Talk about it. We have become like those who would rather record a video of an incident than to get involved. We care about going viral than genuinely care about the person. The church has failed to get involved in social media issue because of the fear that we might be labeled as joining the ecumenical movements. Getting involved doesn't mean that we change. It simply means that we want because we love Jesus, and that That's the only reason why we should get involved. You see, there's an issue in our church. Self-preservation. Listen to me, friends. The church is busy self-preserving our image. We care about the looks of the church, the color of the church, and the carpet of the church, more than caring about those who visit our church. The church is too particular, and we have neglected those who are perishing around us. Church board are more concerned or occupied about implementing disciplinary action than initiating a healing process for the erring ones. Self-preservation. You see, while both sides are striving for the mastery over who is right in women's ordination, friends, Satan has been successful in dividing us. Both sides want to preserve their view, but we're not willing to come and say, Lord, what is your will? Our mission is compromised as a result of this issue. Satan has been successful in putting a smokescreen before us. Our mission is lost. The world is waiting for us to get together. Regardless of which side you stand, that is not what matters. Stand in the side of Christ. And while we've been busy bashing our church, we have forgotten that we have selfish issue in our own backyard, in our own personal life. We've got to ask ourselves, how did we got here in the first place? You see, friends, selfish starts as a little innocent, small thing. But in the book of Daniel, that tree has grown into a big tree that needs to be cut down. What we need to realize is that no matter how small pride, selfie, or envy it may seem, if it's not surrendered to the will of God, it will take over your whole life. How is death to selfie possible? You see, the Bible tells us in the book of Daniel chapter 4, verse 34. How is selfie possible? Let's go back there. Daniel chapter 4, verse 34. But at the end of that period, I, Nebuchadnezzar, raised my eyes toward heaven, and my reason returned unto me, and I am blessed the Most High, and praise and honor Him who lives forever. It is only when Nebuchadnezzar looked up and realized that those things that he has and the success that he has does not belong to him. It was only when he extolled the Most High and praised and glorified Him forever that selfie was gone. For His authority is an everlasting authority, He mentioned, and His kingdom extends from one generation to the next. Looking up. Only when we look up that selfie is put to death. Jesus tells us, when I am lifted up, I will draw all men unto myself. The solution to our selfie issue is to look at Christ, to look at the cross, and to look up to heaven. Because we know that when we look up within, selfie will take over. See, at first, it started as an innocent, fun, social interaction. Back then, playing Nintendo was the most famous thing to do. And it was for me, somewhat, to give me time to bond with my friends. Those were the excuses I made. A few weeks goes by, and what started to be innocent and fun became something else. At the beginning, I played less than an hour. Then it became a day. Then it became a few days at a time. I forget to use the bathroom. I forget to eat. I forget to socialize. And I forget to get out of the room. I didn't know what time or what day it was. Because here I was so cut up. It's all about me. It's all about me. I became so addicted to video games that it has taken over my life. I mean, that's not the right word. It has consumed. I became so engulfed with this addiction that I felt like there was no way out. Selfie. Self-preservation is all about me. Self-addiction. Then one day someone came and shared with me and said, look up. There's a God in heaven who understands your situation because He sent His Son to die for you. For the very first time in my life, I looked up by reading my Bible. I looked up by praying and asking for forgiveness. For the first time in my life, I looked up and asked God to give me victory.
Amen.
And by the grace of God, the rest is history. You see me standing here.
Amen.
I've had many addictions, but by the grace of God, when I looked up, it solved the issue. It has not solved every issue, but I praise God that even though I'm not where I am, I'm glad that I'm not where I used to be.
Amen.
You see, the Bible tells us, I close here, Job 11:13-15, the Bible tells us, surrender your heart to God.
Yes.
Turn to Him in prayer and give up your sins, even those you do in secret. Then you won't be ashamed. You will be confident. Friends, there is a call to death to self. How many of you would be willing to say, Lord, I want to look up. I want death to self. What about you? Is that your desire today? Say, Lord, I want death to self.
Amen.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, I'm tired of myself. I'm sure that all of us are. We're tired of self. Lord, we want to look up. Because we know that only you can give us the power to overcome.
Yes.
We give you our hearts. We give you even those dark corners of our hearts that sometimes we are not willing. But Lord, help us to be willing. We believe, but help our unbelief. By your grace and your mercy, grant us victory because we look up to Jesus, who is ever living for us and making mediation for us. He is our only hope. And because we love Him and because we want to follow Him, we want death to self, we accept your grace. In Jesus' name.
Amen.